Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Child Care Bridge Podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your child care center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Child Care Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Child Care Bridge. Today's topic is all about some of the key tactics and strategies that you need to implement when you're opening up a new center and or a brand new location. The days of if you build it and they will come are long gone. You used to be able to put up a building, lease a spot, have a sign, and all of a sudden your phone would start ringing. The days of high competition, potentially lower tuition, more competitiveness for teachers are here to stay. The nice thing, though, is that this entire business is a marketing play. And I would argue that every business is a marketing play, so much so that is what I have made my entire livelihood and betting the rest of my future on that exact statement. Yes, you're providing a service. Yes, there are teachers involved and kids and parents, but at the end of the day, if you do not have better marketing, more effective marketing, bigger budgets, you're going to be in for a very rude awakening. Now, I'm known for giving asterisks during my podcast. The only asterisk that I can provide here is that if you, for whatever reason, in a good way, are in a town or an area that there's far greater demand than there is childcare, it's not that this doesn't apply to you, but it's a lot easier. Like if there are hundreds, if not thousands of kids that are looking for potential enrollment in a center and there's no centers, they're having to drive 20, 30, 40 miles, you have a little bit more of a monopoly. And it's not that you're going to have to put a ridiculous amount of money into marketing. But I can tell you the last time that I have seen that particular situation was close to 4 or 5 years ago. I have not had a center that has approached us, and they probably haven't approached us because they feel like they don't have a marketing issue, that has said, Michael, we have a bit of a monopoly right now in this area. But monopolies rarely last forever, so this content still applies to you as well. This whole thing needs to be wrapped and tied up in a bow in a very well-oiled marketing execution plan. Now, what is a marketing execution plan? Another word that I like to use is fortune map. It's that great, you're over here, you want to get to over here, and that has that pot of gold on the other side, so we have to kind of move through the motions. We got to go up, down, sideways, backwards, forward, all that good stuff to reach our desired path. This plan needs to reverse engineer the numbers that you are looking for when you open. And that is the key, when you open. Now, one of the questions that I know I'm going to get asked, and I've been asked it many, many, many times, is when should I start doing the marketing for a new center? That could mean buying a building, building a building, leasing, adding on another location. You're opening up in different location. When should I start marketing? Unfortunately, the answer that I normally have is 6 months ago or 12 months ago. Like a lot of centers reach out when they're a month or two from opening. Think about that. Why would you want to put all of this money into furnishing your location, buying everything that you possibly need, getting up to code, going through all of that, dealing with licensing, to then potentially open up with 5 enrollments, 10 enrollments? It's not a comfortable spot to be in. And when you get behind, oh, okay, it's our first month. That was a rough one. We lost 30,000. Then month 2 comes and month 3, and you're already so behind that it's like you're constantly digging, like you're going into quicksand and you're trying to escape it, and it's just pulling you deeper and deeper into that quicksand. Comparing that with the opposite reality of you have this well-oiled marketing execution plan and you know what you're going to be doing month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, and beyond. My step one for any center opening is to have a robust plan that lists everything out that you are going to be doing. And we're going to talk about the what in just a second. But you need to have dates. You need to have dollars. The dollars to me are even just as important, if not more important, than the dates. Month one, how much are you willing to invest to start getting the word out? And that is the second big question that I always get. The first one is always, Michael, when should we start? And then the second question is, how much money do we need? And that is an extremely tricky one to answer. The reason that it's an extremely tricky one is that everyone's situation is different. Everyone has different levels of tuition, how much money you're investing to get the business going, how much cash flow you have to actually float or capital reserves. There's a lot of different things that end up going into the formula. But similar to the answer of when should I start marketing, and I usually say, well, you're about 6 to 12 months behind. Unfortunately, the cash one is the exact same answer. You're not going to be able to put in $1,000 a month for a year or for 6 months and then open with 100 enrollments. In what planet does that happen where you could literally invest $6,000 or $12,000, and let's just use round numbers, say the tuition's $1,000 a month, that you were to invest $12,000 over 12 months, and then month one you open up with 100 enrollments to build a $1.2 million a year reoccurring revenue business off of a $12,000 investment? Michael, we have the building and everything else, and we put in $200,000 in equipment, and we have cameras, and that's all well and good, but if nobody knows about you, you just threw $250,000 down the drain. You need to have that robust plan, but the second piece to this equation is you need to have some dollars to put behind it. If you don't have, at the very, very least, $30,000 over 6 months, so $5,000 a month, for example, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. And that is a low number. When we're opening up additional locations for our clients that we work with, a lot of times the budgets are $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. So, well, Michael, how does that math make sense? Well, let's say we're pushing the marketing for 6 months and we're throwing $20,000 a month for 6 months. So $120,000 investment. Well, what if they open up with 50 enrollments at $1,000 each? So for $120,000, you just built a $500,000 plus business over 6 months for $120,000. So you have to have some capital with that plan. So that is step one and step two. Step one, having that plan dialed in. What are all the different activities? Step two, how much are you willing to invest? And you can't get mad at me if you have a really low number and you don't open up with the enrollments that you're expecting. The whole point of this plan is to really be able to reverse engineer the numbers. So as you start to see, is the phone ringing, yes or no? Are you getting leads, yes or no? Great, then you can up the budget a little bit and you start to watch the results from there. How is your waiting list? How is your backlog of tours? You can track and monitor all this stuff on that document, but you've got to also have some dollars. So what are the activities from a marketing standpoint that you need to be doing? We talked about having the plan. We talked about having some dollars. My biggest piece for you from a marketing standpoint of what could separate you from everyone else is by deploying the Dream 100 framework. Now, I've got an episode that I'll link in the show notes where I talked all about deploying the Dream 100 framework. The Dream 100 framework is essentially, and I'm boiling it down, it's essentially simplifying joint venture and strategic alliances. So for example, you can go and strike a relationship with a martial arts studio, a dance studio, the trampoline park locally, gymnastics studios, after-school care, other kids' activities, potentially the different schools in your area, public schools, private schools. You start to strike those relationships, you work out certain arrangements, and then those relationships start to refer families to you. So think about that. If you strike a deal, and I'm using the word deal a little bit generically, but if you strike a deal, a relationship with a martial arts studio, and let's say they have 300 families that are currently going there, even if they have 100 families, what if 5 or 10 of those families ended up joining your center? And you did that a second time at another relationship and a third time. So it's a lot of the networking, but the Dream 100 framework, and I've got a whole nother podcast on the Dream 100, talks you through how to launch the Dream 100. But it's a lot of those relationships and really being strategic, giving of value, gifting. There's a lot of things that you need to look at doing. And it's not just, hey, can I throw some flyers up in your dojo? That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at how do you actually build and solidify a relationship. That one strategy really separates you from the pack. The other strategy that a lot of your competitors will be using, but this is where you need to leverage an agency like mine, you need to be throwing a lot of dollars at paid media. And you can get creative with this. You can be advertising on TikTok, Hulu, other live streaming shows, in addition to Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Twitter, Pinterest, like all these other platforms. But when you're opening up a new location, you've got to be branding. It's not just now enrolling. It's talking about what you're doing for the community. It's building different layers of communication to your market. It's not just, hey, now we're open. Are you looking for childcare? You're talking about why you're coming to the community, or if you're already in the community, why you're opening up another location, what you're trying to accomplish, what are your methodologies, your why, your story. So having a lot more of that top of funnel is the marketing phrase, type of content, getting people interested, getting them aware that you exist. And if you combine that strategy with the Dream 100, in addition to one more that I'll talk about in just a minute, you'll start to separate yourself from the pack. So the Dream 100 is a longer game strategy. So you need to pair that with all this paid media. And that's where those budgets that I talked about come in. Like you can't just slap up $300 at Facebook ads and just expect to see instant leads. That doesn't work like that. It takes some time to start to see that come to fruition. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of elbow grease. So you've got the Dream 100 and then you have your paid media. The final strategy that I'm going to throw on this one, and I can give you 100 other strategies, ideas, tactics, and I'll continue to give more in future episodes. But I want you to think about what type of guerrilla marketing stunt, guerrilla marketing event you could pull off. Guerrilla marketing is all about using time, energy, imagination, outside the box ideas instead of lots and lots of money. So the good news is with this particular strategy, you don't have to invest a lot of money. But look at what are some of the guerrilla ways that you can get your name out there. Examples. If you have a bus or you have logos on your vehicle, what if you're parking those in spots that are going to get a ton of visibility? Simple one, but you're putting a vehicle out there and you're starting to, at least people are seeing the brand, depending on what you have in terms of logo or truck wrap or whatnot. Another one, what if you're sponsoring a particular event, but you give away something very different? You go above and beyond and do a certain scholarship. You sponsor something, but you show up with 100 backpacks with school supplies and things like that for the needy, but it was unexpected. Guerrilla marketing is also about an element of surprise. Now, the opposite of a good guerrilla marketing tactic, there's been ones where people have put like boxes outside certain cities and all of a sudden the bomb squad is called and it's crazy. That's not the type of guerrilla stunt. But I'm looking for what is something that you can do to really stand out. What is something that's going to get potentially the media talking about you locally? But you want it to be good press because not all press is good press. That thing has been debunked. That phrase has been debunked more times than I care to admit. But start to brainstorm what are some of the things. And there's little easy things that you can do by always wearing your shirt with your logo on it. But what if you have something on the back? I mean, ask me about X. Ask me about my curriculum. Do you speak 3 languages? Got STEM? ? Like, look at something that's going to, and you wear that every day. Hopefully you have more than one. Little things like that. What if you were to have a booth at the school? And again, you do something outside the box. You obviously would want to get permission. Maybe you have a petting zoo or something. Like, you need to do things that are going to start to create a little bit of a buzz, a little bit of a spectacle. And those first 6 months, 12 months, it's all about building on things month after month after month. But brand is is the most important. It's not just that call to action now and rolling. You have to build up a little bit of brand equity. You got to get parents talking about you on some of the groups. Hey, did you see this new fancy center in town? I saw them here. Oh, I saw them here. I read about them here. It's not just trying to have one big open house. If you're going to do an open house, it needs to be a big event. You got to have radio DJs, for example, from the top stations. You need to have not just a bounce house. Like, what else can you do to separate you and your center from the pack? Get a well-dialed-in marketing execution plan, aka fortune map. Nail down some dedicated dollars that you're going to commit to investing. Develop your Dream 100 list and start to execute that strategy. Paid media so that you're driving attention on demand. And then you bonus that with a couple of guerrilla marketing stunts or events, and you'll start to move yourself in the right direction. Opening up a new location is a very tall order, but it can be extremely lucrative for the growth-minded entrepreneur. Thank you as always for tuning in. Catch me next week. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. See ya.